what is the one thing that somebody can control in their life?
Our response to any given situation.
So if somebody is having a bad day, a bad year, some people tend to say, God, the gods are against me, you know?
Right.
And they fixate on all these bad things that are happening to them that they can't control because, you know, whether earthquake or whatever.
That's a victim state, right? When you feel that way. And well, there's lots of things we can't control. We can't control the weather. We can't control our boss and what our boss is going to say to us tomorrow. We can't control what our spouse is going to say to us in that next very moment. The earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and we don't even know it. And there's millions of things that are happening that are literally out of our control. So something happens in our world, in our life, and it's all about sort of seeing that and paying attention to that and then responding. We can control and what our next action would be, our next thought or feeling, or what that would be. That's what we can control. That is really it. And so what we need to do is give up on the control thing and just focus on us, focus on what we can do to have the life we want to have.
Right. And I think most people, they don't really believe that they have control over that because they feel like these are things that are happening in them, as you said, a victim state, and they get caught up in the negativity of the things that are happening rather than how they react to it.
Correct. So it's so important to understand, and I don't think most people do understand the fact that we are empowered. We're powerful people, we're powerful beings. We can have the life we want. So we all have that ability to do that. So what happens, Jack, is that things happen, circumstances happen in our world, in our life.
Right.
And we start to not believe that anymore, right?
Yeah.
We start to believe that, God, maybe things aren't possible. It hasn't worked for me before. And so we beat ourselves up. And what we tell ourselves is so incredibly important in every moment. You know, how come I haven't had that, found that perfect woman for me or that perfect man for me, my dream mate? How come I haven't had that dream job? How come I haven't made that $1 million yet? We beat ourselves up. Something must be wrong with me. And so that feeds on itself. And so we develop into this negative state.
Right. You know, you go to the water cooler at work, and folks will sit around and talk about everything that's wrong with the place they work at, the boss, and this and that. And then other people come, and pretty soon you've got this group of people whose way of kind of dealing with their issues in life is just venting. And they create this like negative venting circle. Kind of makes them feel better maybe in that moment, like they get it off their chest, but then they go back to their desk and they still have the same problems and the same crappy reality that they had after they finished talking about it with all their other friends who were like that at the water cooler. So what would you say to folks like that? What do you do to break yourself out of that kind of cycle?
Well, misery loves company. That's where that term came from. It's no surprise that the water cooler, you attract into your circle, your influence, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're saying to yourself. And so that's an energy. It's something that most humans can't be seen, but it's a very energetic thing.
You brought up a point. You talked about it on an energy level, but even on a practical level, I think you see that guy over at the water cooler who you know is going to want to be positive about what's going on, and you kind of, that's what you want, you're going to go, oh, I'm going to get up and take my water break right now because Joe's over there and Joe's a cool, positive guy. Flip side of that, if you just want to complain and you see, Mike at the water cooler, Mike loves to talk shit, you're gonna go, I'm gonna go to that water cooler because me and Mike can talk shit now for a few minutes. So it's not just even an energetic thing. It's practically, I choose Mike as my partner in shit talking, or I choose Joe as my partner in, hey, how are we gonna have a great day?
Because he or she's gonna validate my position.
Yes.
And I'm comfortable in that position, right? And we want comfort. We're human beings, we want to be comfortable. Change is almost as bad as death, right? Because it's the unknown. We don't know what that's going to look like. And so let me be me. That's okay. That's who I am. That's people always say that, right? This is who I am. I'm sorry. This is who I am.
Right.
And so they just stay the same. They stay in the same place. And so they have the same people. They do the same thing. Therefore, they walk around on autopilot. They're a trance. They just continue to do the same thing that they've always done, how they've always done it. Hence, they are victims, right? Because of the negativity and the world did this to me, you did this to me, my boss did this to me, the food did this to me, it made me sick, whatever. Instead of being powerful, and we do create the world we want. I mean, that's hugely important. David Hawkins said that in Power versus Force. But we have that ability to be powerful. So how do you snap out of that? Instead of looking at the negative and what's wrong in society and what's wrong in my life and what's wrong in my world, that's an easy thing to do. Focus on the good. What's good? That's really that's the pivot.
So the McDonald clan, as you can see in the pictures above Paul's head, are all quarterbacks. Matthew, the handsome guy up in the corner with the number 3 on his jersey, Matthew was a junior at Mater Dei, and he hadn't started his freshman, sophomore year, but now he was a starter. And in the second game of the season, he breaks his wrist, which means he's pretty much gone for the season. And if you're being recruited in high school, that junior year is probably your most important year, where they're going to get the most film on you. So it was a pretty tough time for him, I would imagine. I'll let you talk about that. But to compound it, the coach at Mater Dei also told him that, hey, this kid JT Daniels, who later went on to play at SC in Georgia, he's now our starter this year, and next year it's a competition. I can't guarantee you're going to get your starting spot. So if you don't come back and play at all, there goes your idea of playing college football as a freshman with a scholarship. You're done. You're going to have to go to community college to get that. And I don't think Matthew wanted that. So how did Matthew respond to that? He must have been devastated.
It was devastating, because this was his chance as a junior to be the starter at Mater Dei, which is a premier, maybe the premier high school football program in the United States.
100%.
Right? So what an opportunity to showcase his talent and his ability. And he was getting some play from a lot of colleges prior to his junior year. The first game they won, they beat my old high school Bishop Amat. And then second series of the second game, he breaks his left wrist, non-throwing wrist. And the real story about this is what he did at our encouragement was the injury happened on a Friday night, and on Wednesday he was back training. Yeah. With a splint.
Right.
So, and that was Andrew. That was this guy right here.
He's the one who got him out there and said, get back to work.
That was his first thing. We're going to go train. We're going to get faster, more athletic, quicker, all that sort of stuff. And we did. We went back to his trainer in Newport Beach, and we all went. We all got up at 5:30 in the morning, all of us.
Right. With
Matthew. And got him, moved him off of this feeling sorry for myself, which is a very easy thing to do. When something happens to people, that's what we've been talking about. Yeah, it's natural. You're going to feel sorry. Oh my, how could this happen? No, you move on. You move on. And what can you control? What he can control is, hey, I can get better, even though I've got a splint on my left wrist, right? No surgery was required. Right. So that's what he did. So he was more athletic, faster, in better condition after he got back. In fact, the team used him in the playoffs in a runner's mode at quarterback, not a passing mode. So they brought him in periodically because he was more athletic in 8 weeks.
So that interesting thing is he actually became a better football player, a better quarterback, because now he was more mobile than had the injury not happened, he would have gone and done that work.
100% correct. That is it. And that's the message of what we're talking about here. Okay, this happened to me. Okay, now what? How can I learn, grow, and evolve from this? What can I do next to improve? Because that's what these things are all for, that are thrown at us. It's opportunities to get better, opportunities to pay attention, maybe to pivot, maybe to shift.
So what did Matthew end up deciding to do?
We transferred to Mission Viejo High School. Right. Bob Johnson was the head coach there, and it took us in, famously. And Matthew had to win the job. Right. Which he did. He worked really hard and won the job and had a stellar season, threw for 39 TDs, ran for 4 or 5, and they got to the quarterfinals, and he ended up getting a scholarship offer to Boston College. Now, it was challenging to get an offer because of what you talked about, is that most people prior to their junior year are on everybody's radar.
Right.
Well, Matthew got hurt, he went off everybody's radar.
Yeah.
And then he sort of resurfaced, but by then everyone's committed. You got to find your guy
Right.
because it's a feeding frenzy out there, especially at that position, at the quarterback position. So we were searching, and we fortunately through a guy named Cam Cameron,
Right.
and I asked Cam for a favor, and hey, can you maybe take a look at Matthew's tape? He did. He loved it, and he was very close with Scott Loeffler, who's the offensive coordinator at Boston College.
Right.
He liked Matthew, so we got the scholarship. So all good came out of that injury.
And just to put a cap on the story, Loeffler ended up leaving Boston College, becoming head coach at Bowling Green, and Matthew followed him, and now he's the starting quarterback at Bowling Green.
That's correct, and has been for 2 years. There was this shortened COVID year, but then last year as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is people who look back on their life, they realize when they went through a period of adversity, the growth they came through at has made them a better person, made them better at their craft or whatever. When you're in it, it sucks. There's no way around it, it sucks. But I think that the lesson from it is that you do find a way to pivot, you do find a way to take the proverbial lemons and make them into lemonade. And Matthew now is a much more mobile quarterback than he would have been had he not ever broken his wrist. But that time, on the reflection part, you see that. When you're in it, you don't.
It's a challenge when you're in it. And so you need to step out of it and be pragmatic about it, be realistic about it. And it helps to have people around you to do that. And when you're in a bubble in your own, if you're in your own apartment, just thinking about, woe is me, what can I do? It's a little more challenging, but it can be done. But it must be done in order to move through it.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll stay in it, and that'll be part of your story the rest of your life.
I coulda.
Yeah.
If I hadn't broken my wrist, I probably would have played college football.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people unfortunately have that story, and that's what they're stuck with, is this idea of what could have been instead of what is.
So here's the point, Jack, in all of this. We are an amalgamation, a compilation of experiences our entire life. Now, there have been some good experiences, some perceived negative experiences, but whatever has come out of that is who we are today. And so I say those negative experiences most times are more important than the positive ones, as long as you're paying attention to it and taking those steps to learn and grow from them to become a better you.
Right.